So let's talk about growth. And growth we'll highlight in pink. And let's talk about decay, which I'm going to highlight in blue. You're dealing with growth when this number here, which is your base, which is your B, is greater than 1. Okay? So as long as that number is greater than 1, then it's considered growth. Anything you have is going to grow. Now if you look over here, this number looks like it's less than 1, but what it really means is that it's between 0 and 1. And if you look right here, that's exactly what this information is saying. Now what I want you to understand is that something is growth. If I have $10 and it's doubling, it's at 200%. That's why it's growing. But if you look here, the 0.5 represents decay, which means if I have $10, I'm going to lose 50% every single time. So at the second day, I'll only have $5. The third day, I'll only have $2.50 because it is decaying by 50%. The base will never be negative. You can't have negative. But what you can do is have negative here. And I want to be clear, what that means here is that I started with $1 and it doubles every day. This means I started with $100 and it's decaying by 50%. So the next day I have $50, then the next day I have $25, then I have $12.50, and then I have $6.25. It is decaying. And if you look here, when I show my decay, it never officially hits 0. Okay? And if you look here, this is my growth, and I can grow forever unless there is a limit. Okay? So now what I want you to do is look at this problem. Oh, I need to back up a little bit. If you look here, there can be negative growth. There can be negative decay. If it's negative growth or decay, this is the way it's going to look. Negative growth and negative decay, which means I could start with a negative value and then that value could grow. Or I could start with a negative value and it decays. Notice those numbers are considered my A. So that's the part that can be negative. All right, what I want you to do here is decide if it's growth or decay. So I'm looking at this number here. Since that number is between 0 and 1, that means it's decay. It was originally at 100%, but then now it is at 80%. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is decay, which I have in blue. And there's the justification. Do you need the justification? Of course I do. Then I look over here. Since this number is greater than 1, which means it's growing by 20%, it's growth. Therefore, that's what I want. Okay? So that's the basic idea, noticing the difference between growth and decay. This tells me that I start with $5, or I start with 5 people, and it's going to grow by 20% every day. So that means the second day I'll have 6 people, and so on and so forth. This tells me I start with 30, but it's going to decay by 80%, which means I'm losing 20% each day, which means after the first day, I'm going to lose 6 people, so I will only have 24, or only have $24. Okay, let's turn the page, and let's get into a better breakdown of what that represents. Here's my growth, and here's my decay. Now, what I want you to see is when I'm seeing the number 1, the 1 represents 100% of my money. And what I'm trying to say is if I have growth, this is the growth rate. This is the decay rate. If you also look, this is the initial amount. Initial amount means what did I start with? So let me give you an example. Let's say I started with $5 and it grows at a rate of 3%. That means my A is 5 and it grows, that's why it's a plus. But when I'm doing percent, I need to change it to a decimal, move it over twice, 0.03, which really means it's 1.03 to the x. So that would be my function if it's growing at a rate. But what if I give you the same thing, but this time instead of saying growth, I say decay? So what I'm saying is you still start with $5, you have 100% of your money, but I'm going to take away 3% each time. That really means now that you have 97% of your money left over to the X. There you go. So this is what growth represents, and that is what decay represents. Where now you're going to get 3% on your $5 each day. This you're going to lose 3% on your $5 each day. Eventually you'll have no money. Eventually you'll have a lot of money. Okay? So with that being said, let's actually create a function. It tells me f of x. I'm looking for how much money I started with. So I know that I'm going to use my pink function right here. My initial amount is $12,000, but you don't put a comma when you're writing a function. If I look, it says I purchased, and it's going to increase. Increase means it's growth. But when I'm doing 14%, I need to write it as a decimal, move it over twice, 0.14 to the x. Therefore, it really means my function is 12,000, 1.14 to the x. It will grow by 14% each year. So at year 0, I'm at 12,000. But at year 1, I'm going to have 14% more of my $12,000. That's A. Letter B is asking me to graph it. So if I'm going to graph it, I'm talking about years, and I'm talking about how much money I'm going to have. Year, I will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then when I'm talking about money, I have $12,000 and it's going to grow. Now, I don't know about you, but it would be super annoying to write 12,000, then 13,000. So if I write my money in thousands, then all I have to do is write 12, but then I know that means thousands. So I'm going to go by 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. So at day 0, which is what I started with, I will have $12,000. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate it for 1. So I'm going to pick up my calculator, and I'm going to go 12,000, 1.14 to the first power. So I'm going to go 12, 1, 2, 3, parentheses, 1.14 to the first power. And that tells me I have 13,680. That means after the first year, I'll have about $13,000. So I'm going to come over here, and after 1 year, I'm at 13,000. So I go up a little bit. And then I could calculate it for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, but what I want you to get is that it eventually goes up exponentially, but over time. Let's go to the next one. Oh, I didn't do letter C. But for letter C, I need to figure out when it's going to be 60,000. So what I'm doing right now is, I can't find my yellow pen. I'll do orange. I'm trying to figure out when this value gets to 60,000. So I'm going to go 60. Oops, I shouldn't have done the comma. So honestly, I don't want to deal with it with a graph. So I'm going to do guess and check. So I'm going to go up, up, enter. And I'm going to guess, let's say 5 days. And if I guess 5 days, I'm at 23,000. So that's too low because I need 60,000. So let's try 8. Oops, make sure that it's to the 8th. Now I'm at 34,000. I need to get to 60,000. And I'm going to eventually teach you a more efficient way, but you don't know that yet. You're at 50,000. You're getting there. So now I'm going to try 12. I'm at 57. And then I move that, and I go 13. Now, I'm at 60,000. So I'll say by the 13th day, I get to the 16,000. Because I'm at 65,000, so I'm a little bit over. All right, let me look at the next one. So for the next problem, I'm going to play the exponential function game, f of x equals. Remember, I start with what I start with, without the comma. 1. As soon as I see the word decrease, I know that I'm losing money. So it's a decay. Now 9.5%, I need to change it to a decimal, move it 2 to the left, which points 0.095 to the x. If I was to simplify that in my calculator, which I can do, I will go 1 minus 0.095, and I get 0.905. Now, what I'm hoping some of you can do is go, hey, if I have 100% and I take away 9%, I'm at 91%, and I take away another 0.5%, I'm at 90.5%. Now I'm going to graph it. When I'm graphing it, they're telling me to talk about year and money again, and I'm going to play the thousands game. Thousands, who cares? My handwriting's horrible. Now, I notice that my number is going to be decreasing. So eventually I'll get to nothing, and I still feel like if I go by fives, I will be okay. 25, 30. So at day 0, I start at 28,000. If I'm going to day 1, I'm going to plug in 1 for my x. I'll pick up my calculator, 28, 1, 2, 3, parentheses, 0.905 to the first power. And so I can see after day 1, I'm at $25,000, which is a little bit lower. I'll eventually get to nothing. You get the idea. Okay? And I forgot to label that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the next thing is, when am I only going to have $5,000? So I'm trying to figure out, when is it going to happen? In which day? Which day is it going to take me? So I'm going to do some guess and check. And I'll say, let me delete, and let's guess in 10 days. I have $10,000, so I'm still having more. So let's try 12 days. I'm at $8,000. Let's try 14 days. I'm at $6,000. So honestly, it's just guess and check. You will learn a more efficient way, but not yet. I still have above 5,000. So let's try day 17. Still above 5,000. Day 18. So by the 18th day, that's when I'll hit below $5,000.